Hello and welcome everyone to another Fantasy Premier League video on my FPL channel, FPL Inklink. My name is Mo and today I'm going to be going through the players for Crystal Palace that I've been listing so far at this point of the FPL game and Premier League season. So we've got a couple of weeks to go before the first game week for the new season, and this is me taking an opportunity to go through each team one by one to look at some of their players, main players, new players that have been added, and the players that I believe should either be in your plans to consider to bring into your squads, or definitely someone to actually keep an eye on, maybe not get them in right now, or someone who you should literally just simply avoid. So these are just basically my opinions based on basically the game that I've seen last season and before a ball is kicked this season. So these are just predictions, so let me get you guys started and give you guys my information around the players that we'll be reviewing. But before we do that, if you've come here for the first time, welcome. If you've been to my channel before and you've seen my content and you're returning, I'd like to welcome you back to FPL Inkling. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, there's no better time than now. Click that subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit the like button, and also if you like to get the notifications of when I do release my content, you can actually hit that bell icon and you'll be notified as soon as I release my content. So let's not waste any further time and let's get stuck in with Crystal Palace players. So what better place to start off than actually the goalkeeping position? So I've been dreading this. Let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. So it's Vicente Guaita? I think that's how you pronounce it, guys. I apologise if I've got that wrong. So at the moment, guys, he's owned by around 6.6% of managers who've signed up for the FPL game. He's worth 4.5 mil, so that's a generous, goalkeeper, a budget goalkeeper price. I know he got 124 points last season, so he's a nailed-on first-team goalkeeper for Crystal Palace. In terms of his clean sheets, he got 8 clean sheets last season, conceded 64 goals, so they are likely to concede a lot of goals throughout the season. He got 15 bonus points, so again, that could potentially be combined with the performances he made, and he got 107 saves as the season progressed. But I would like to say, in terms of points per game, so if I looked at his stats from last season, he averaged 3.43 points per game. Now, do I believe that there's better goalkeepers in the game for around that price who I think can potentially get better points this season? Of course. So I believe that, probably a Sanchez, 4.5 mil from Brighton. You've got alternative options there who I think can actually, make that position a bit more tenable and a bit more friendly. I think they'll be a bit more safe in terms of what they can offer. But that's not to say he won't perform well this season. I'm just basing this on the fact that, they've got Vieira now as their new manager. Not entirely sure how they're going to play, what their style of football is going to be. But under Hodgson, they were really, really fluid, and they had like a method of playing. So yeah, let's wait to see how they go ahead, and good to hear, he's one of those budget goalkeepers that you can consider in your team for the fantasy drafts to begin with. So let's look at their fixtures for Crystal Palace. So in terms of Palace themselves, I think they've got a real tricky start. Okay, so they start with Chelsea away, followed by Brentford at home, which I think will be a good game for them. But then there comes a challenge. They've got West Ham away, Liverpool away, and Tottenham at home. And then Arsenal and Leicester to follow in a couple of weeks after. So they've not got an actually really easy start. So you might be looking at this and thinking, wow, I mean, I'm immediately, put off by the idea of having a goalkeeper from Crystal Palace because of those fixtures. But it can actually work vice versa. As I mentioned, if he has a good game in a few of those games, he's very likely to get a lot of points for the saves he makes, and he might get some bonus points as well. If he combines out the clean sheet, you're potentially having a look at a goalkeeper who might get 10 points or more, around the 8 to 10 points mark in the game week, in the first couple of game weeks. Now that's a phenomenal achievement if he does do that, but there are all possibilities considered. They could actually concede 4 goals and he could get 0 points. So there's extremes of both ends. It's just depending on how brave you feel to actually kind of put him in your team and in the goal for those fixtures coming ahead as well. So I've discussed the fixtures now for Crystal Palace, so we've got a bit of an idea of what they're kind of anticipated in the first 10 game weeks and what the players can expect if they are to be considered or selected. Moving to the backline now. So Crystal Palace's highest scoring defender last season was Coyote. So he's selected by 0.4% of managers, worth 4.5 mil. He's a regular, so he played pretty much every single minute. He was rested, I think, for the odd game here, but he's pretty much nailed on to play week in, week out. He got 1 goal last season, so he's not much of a goal or assist threat for the opposition, or you be proud of, or kind of look forward to as a manager. But at least he'll get minutes. So if you're looking for a player who potentially will be 4.5 and sits on your bench, maybe this is the player worth considering. He got 2 bonus points last season, 82 points in total, but his points per game was 2.37, which is significantly quite low. So do I believe that there are better options out there for 4.5 mil to put on your bench? I certainly do. You can potentially consider someone like a Tarek Lamptey, a Fofana. You've also got Connor Cody. So there are players in the game which I believe potentially could give you more return. But they've got a new manager in Patrick Vieira now. Is this going to be the season? And looking at their fixtures, I ideally wouldn't want him in my squad, even on the bench or in my starting lineup, based on the fixtures they've got initially coming. So maybe looking at those alternatives might be a better idea. But he was Palace's highest scoring defender by quite a significant margin last season. I'm a bit upset with the fact that Ben Mitchell's gone up to 4.5 mil, but that's literally the game itself. And Ferguson as well, who's 4.5 as well, who didn't play a single minute last season. But hey, that's worth looking into. And this is the Palace backline itself. Moving forward to my star-studded recommendation from Crystal Palace, is Mr. Palace himself, Wilfried Zaha. So Zaha splits opinion really. He always has this phase in the season where he becomes absolutely, incredible, and every manager looks and thinks, why haven't I got him in my squad? Let's get him in my squad. And then he goes quiet for a very long period. So he has these moments, a bit like Marcus Rashford. So if you look at him in terms of consistency, he's always averaged anywhere around 130 to 140 points in the last 5 seasons. So you kind of know what you're getting with him. At 7 mil, I think that's quite a fair price because he's a week in, week out player for Crystal Palace, barring any injuries. And he will be basically the main kind of like source of goals for Crystal Palace. So last season he got 11 goals and 4 assists. So you can see, the last 5 seasons he's got definitely more than 10 goal contributions with assists as well over the FPL season. So definitely worth keeping an eye out on him. He's got Patrick Vieira coming in now. Is that going to change the ethos? Is he going to stay at Crystal Palace? Because he's always had that news around him that is he going to stay? Is he going to go? So there's always that argument as well. Is he going to go to Tottenham? Are they going to replace him? It's worth waiting to see what's going to happen with Zaha. But if he stays at Crystal Palace, he's the main point of goals. And if you want someone, for around that price of 7 mil in your squad, then he is your player to consider. He does take the occasional penalties if Milivojevic is not on. And he can win penalties as well. He does get fouled, so that's where the assists are likely to come from as well. For me, I'd love to have him in my squad if I had the funds. But at this moment in my drafts, he's not a part of my drafts, but he is someone I'm definitely considering, along with Mason Mount. And if I look at both of them, they're both very closely matched. But who would I recommend out of the two, Mount or Wilfried Zaha? Personally, I'd go Mason Mount. But he's half a mil more. That's the only downside to that part. But you got James Maddison, who's at 7 mil. Again, between the two, I'd probably go Wilfried Zaha because of Maddison. He's injury prone as well. So that's Wilfried Zaha for you guys so far this season. He is actually favoured by 7% of managers, which is about right, which I'd think. But I think as more managers will come into the game, his ownership will go up before we start the first game of the season. Moving on now for my player that I enjoyed most watching last season was Eze for Crystal Palace. Now, he played 2,555 minutes. He's got an Achilles injury, and we don't have a return date. So it's a shame, really, because at 6 million, I was considering bringing him into my first draft. If I can get a bit more understanding around his injury update, and if he can become available before the start of the season, then I may consider bringing him in very strongly into my starting lineup. So he played 2,555 minutes, got 125 points respectively, but he's only owned by 0.2% of managers at the moment. Obviously, looking at there's no injury date return at the moment, but once that comes in, I think he'll make more a clear understanding of what managers would want to do with his ownership. So, in terms of his points per game, he got 4.41, but for 6 million, I think that's actually not a bad return whatsoever. So he looked really promising in the games when he did hit form, and it's just a shame he's not available at the moment. I think he's definitely worth watching. He's a player to watch. He's not one of those kind of players to watch throughout the season when he does get the opportunity, and I think he can only get better. And with Patrick Vieira there, he's got an absolute legend in him in terms of a manager. And I know a good player doesn't make a good manager, but I think with his wisdom and his kind of motivation, he can definitely take him to another level, especially based on the talent that he's shown. Why not? Last but not least, we're going to look at the forward line, and it's going to be Christian Benteke. At the moment, he's selected by 1.3% of managers. He got 106 points last season. He played 1,808 minutes, so he doesn't play every single minute last season, and he's kind of like, it's yet to see if he's going to be the regular or not. 10 goals and 2 assists respectively, which is actually really impressive in terms of Palace themselves, because they're not really known for goal scoring that much. But you do know that him and Zaha at the moment are kind of like the main sources of goal providing for them. This is the stat which kind of like got me alerted. So points per game, he's on 5.3, sorry, not 5.03, 5.3 points per game. So when he does play, the guy does have an impact as an FPL player. It's just about getting his impact. He got 14 bonus points, which is quite remarkable considering he's only played just over half a season. So he is quite impactful, and he does, he has kind of shown shades of his brilliance after a couple of years now for Crystal Palace. So is that a good sign to see more things to come? We'll just have to wait and see, guys, and see how it goes. So that's Christian Benteke for you. He's not in my plans at the moment. I'm potentially looking at, for that price, Ivan Toney. You've also got Timo Pukki at 6 mil. So I think there are better options available for that price. But I wouldn't be surprised if people do back him for a differential aspect. Christian Benteke, he's proved it in the past. A couple of years ago, he got back-to-back seasons where he got double-digit goals. He had really good seasons at Swansea, Liverpool. But again, it's just about getting him consistent and back and firing. So that's my analysis, guys, of Crystal Palace so far this season. If there are any more players that are added as we get closer to game week 1, and if they come into Crystal Palace as well, I will do a players to watch and new signings video for you guys to be aware of. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have I gone through the players that you were potentially looking at the moment? Have I made your decision easier, or have I complicated it further? Let me know, guys. Let me see if I can help you. If there's a player that I haven't discussed, feel free to let me know, and I can give you guys my thoughts on that player. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I think this is a great opportunity for you to take a moment, hit that subscribe button, and be part of the FPL Inkling family. And in addition, if you like this video, hit that like button, and also hit that notifications bell icon to get the latest notification of when I do release my content. If you haven't joined the FPL Inkling League, the league code is below on the left hand side of the screen. Pop that code into your game and be part of the FPL Inkling League, and let's have a great season. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys soon with my next video.